DrSayus.
Previews roundup. Pokemon gets squished for eShop. Zoink delivers sticker-based hilarity. A princess puts the heavens back in order. Publications get to enact their violent fantasies. Classic titles get the 5-minute treatment, and some robots disguise themselves. Whew! If you enjoy bashing cute things, you're A, evil, and B, in luck. You again shifting tiny heads, cartoon heads gather around a grid to create chains of similar noggins and trigger further combos as new faces tumble into place. Honey, I don't care what you're called, as long as you keep showing me those big sparkling teeth. Stick it to the man! Zoink's comedy adventure platformer stars Ray, a hard hat tester who takes a bash to the bonds and wakes in a lengthy pink spaghetti arm that enables him to steal and implant memories in others' heads. It's like the classic point-and-click adventure of yesteryear, jazzed up with a cool sticker-based inventory system. Peel a set of razor-sharp teeth from an attack dog, for instance, and you can paste them in the place of a gummy crocodile to help restore the lost confidence. Transformers: Rise of the Dark Spark. Imagine Gears of War, only with a lumpy meathead who can reassemble himself as a car. Actually, don't imagine that, as an idea of a meat car is terrifying. The magic trees you'll need to cancel out the stench. Oh boy. We have another interview with Shu Katumi, the creator of Ace Attorney. It's a very interesting interview. This video is long enough, so I'm not going to read it, but you can pause the video and look at the screenshots. Clash of the Crime Stoppers. This is just a silly little feature. 8 of the greatest super sleuths in Nintendo's history lock wits in a special single elimination tournament to crown the ultimate digital Dick Tracy. You have great characters like Professor Layton. He is a man of many passions. A man of cold, calculating logic. Layton told Ohm before the tournament began that he was going to beep the beep out of those little beeps. He's not as nice as he seems on TV. They have hypothetical scenarios. I'm not sure if I quite agree with their winners of these brackets. I think Batman should at least got to the semi-final. The reviews have changed from the issues of old. They realised back in the day, little shits like me only looked at the gold rating and only bought games because of that, so they have put in a silver award and a bronze award. Professor Layton, Phoenix Wright got the gold award. Forget the dramatic title. This is more of a case of Layton and Wright versus a medieval society full of witch-feared folk and a ruler who may be able to pen the future. Take a stiff drink of tea and warm your vocal cords. It'll be a bumpy ride. Are you a boop 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 or a beep beep beeper? You can tell a lot from a man by the sound of his scrolling dialogue box. No two tones are more opposed than Professor Layton and Phoenix Wright. Layton's softer blip is the sound of a gentleman regaling you with a polite yawn over a cup of tea. Ace Attorney, on the other hand, is a shrill, mechanic clank of a virtual stenographer frantically trying to keep up with the madness unfolding before him. So what happens when beep meets boop? Capcom and Level 5 are on no rush to offer the answer. The first surprise of PLVPWAA, that's not awkward at all, is how long is PL and PWAA spend on their respective sides in that versus. Like nervous teens at a school disco, they eye each other up, waiting for the sugary hit of a narrative flavour Panda Pops to push them into one another's arms. Oh Maya, how we missed you on your gomless gawks. Layton's writing is noticeably funnier than his standalone adventures. Blame Takumi. If this screenshot doesn't give you chills, it's time to hand in your gamer card. Obviously the self-confessed Phoenix Wright and Ace Attorney fan is going to give it a high score. I haven't played it myself, so I can't comment. Maybe he's right. Who knows? Maybe I'm just being a bitch. The Lego Movie. Traveller's Tales has always been most at ease when it's poking fun of something. Turning Indiana Jones' escapes from Nazis into slapstick routines reminiscent of hello hello having Obi-Wan seconds before his death disappearing act waving merrily at Luke. Hell, Lego City Undercover was an entire game based on making cops and robbers look stupid. The studio's jibes of how serious fans took their franchises were always lighthearted, but were jobs nonetheless. The good thing is, if this had still been the old Ohm team, they probably would have given it like 20 points more. But I feel in these later issues of Ohm, they're more honest with their scores. Lego trees are the worst. No purpose beyond being a tree. You suck, Lego tree. Wooden Sensei. Is Upper Bites platformer a tasty tuna nigiri or fatal fuju sashimi? The French indie studio responsible for Broken Sensei is based in Lyon and only 3 staff members to do all the work. And one of those is a coffee machine. You'll excuse the rough edges of this lush visuals and lovely score. Wooden Sensei's promised to recreate the old school hardcore gameplay that aged fingers weaned on Super Mario Bros. And Mega Man Hungry 4. Playing as village chief Goro, you chase after a jet-powered flying horseshoe that has stolen everyone's sages. There's a middle-leg joke here, but I'm too mature for that. Although narrative isn't the most important factor of the platformer, we would have preferred it if Goro's character had been more fleshed out beyond Horseshoe Chaser. As mystical ninjas go, Goro is no Gorumon, that's for sure. Instead, he's a generic bouncing stereotype that spouts annoying sound bites every time he dies, which is a lot, because the difficulty level pings around like a rubber Yoshi egg. Weapon shop D. Omas. Misery loves company. We had the same thing on Eurostar. Ridiculous. Some will love what they find, others will find fault in the cracks between ideas. You might think that comedian Yoshiyuki's Hirai's rhythm action blacksmith RPG is being released over a year after its Guildo 1 compadres because of its odd premise that Level 5 is testing the waters to see whether something quite so odd could sell on another market. We'd wager that just taking that long to fully translate. Set in a typical JRPG world, medieval technology check, medieval creatures check, inexorable risk of world-ending evil, you bet. But played entirely from behind the counter of a world's most trusty weapon shop. Omase is at once a fantasy sitcom and a homage to the likes of Dragon Quest and a satire of social media. Somewhere a once plucky translator is having Nam-style flashbacks. Steel Divers Sub-Wars by Chris Sculling, not to be confused with Chris Scullin, who wrote in the early issues of Ohm. Darling, it's better down where it's wetter. Play it for free. A 3DS F2P FPS sauce. Pass the time waiting for games to start in the lobby by chatting in Morse code. Oh, lovely. We're as surprised as you are. Nintendo reimagining one of its least loved series as a free-to-play game. Well, that's exactly why they're doing it. They're testing the waters. No pun intended. Vitae Inc. was founded by Gilles Godard, the ace programmer behind Doshin the Giant and Mario's multiple face on the title screen of Super Mario 64. So he has quite the pedigree then. Yoshi's New Island. I know this got a lot of backlash, this game. Back on the rock of a curiously unadventurous update. Sound effects come from the GBA port of the original, which updates the squeals and buzzes of the SNES version. Yoshi now screams his name, Pokemon style, so they couldn't even give it its own music. The story goes that Shigeru Miyamoto, aggravated at being told by Nintendo that his next game should follow Donkey Kong Country, visual lead, and adopt the same muddy pre-rendered sprites, took the project in a very different direction. His creation was dubbed a sequel to Super Mario World, but was born in the hallmarks of a man unwilling to repeat his own tricks, not least by the way it reduced Mario, saviour of platforming, to a floating annoyance, while power-up created for World took centre stage. Yoshi's Island could be one of the most productive tantrums ever thrown. Every artistic stamp of the foot brought something new to the 2D platformer, a genre that many people assumed Nintendo had stripped clean and perfected years earlier. Stomp, a vibrant painting-like look. Wham, a measured take on platforming centered around Yoshi's ability to create a string of wiggling eggs he fired at enemies, switches, or secrets. Whatever noise a smashed vase makes. A focus on collectibles and exploring the limits of levels. The more you see, the more it seems like this was determined different. A game equivalent of putting your parents' sanctioned piano lessons to join a punk band. Well, if you're from a middle-class family. There are enough smiley faces around to make it seem like a 90s rave. How uncomfortable. Suddenly we see why these guys are so shy. Though I see in the picture below the shy guys got their revenge. For a game born of such focused idea, this is every bit of a hodgepodge. There's something for everyone, but everyone will find something else to grumble about. So at least they had the balls not to give a Nintendo game a high score. It'll do. Madness is like block puzzling. You just need a little push. When heroes learn the ABCs at adventuring school, they're taught that B stands for block pushing, following A for arriving at the temple to begin with, and leading to C for chests. For generations, the humble cube has kept treasurers safe and lazy puzzle designers happy. After the hour we've spent cleaning crates from exits and shutting stones onto switches, the side of a box causes our teeth to clench. Were we to stumble onto Tesco's cereal aisle, we would probably grind our ashes on a calcium soup. We should don a mouth guard then, as it'll do us loads of things. Retro City Rampage DX. If you've never played Retro City Rampage, here's how it works. In a space of 2 missions, we've taken a part-time job as a paperboy before stealing a giant mechanical ape shaped like Donkey Kong. Oh, and then we have to pilot it back to Doc Brown's house from Back to the Future. Of course we did. Adventure Time. Hey Ice King, why'd you steal our garbage? That's actually the title. What's going on here? Something entirely sensible, we wager.
Greetings, creator. I took a vacation of babes recently. My babe stat went up by 4.
Series creator Pendleton Ward's input was mostly story-based, but he also talked to the devs about Zelda 2, hence the top-down map and side-scrolling dungeons. If you haven't watched the show explaining the plot of Adventure Time, Hey IK, WYSOG would be like chewing up pages of The Hobbit, then spitting words into the air. The bonkers story hardly matters. It's more important to know that in terms of being funny, it's as successful as cartoon crossovers get. Unfortunately, the game itself is less amusing. This known parody of old school titles expertly references RPG royalty. This means world maps, snazzy power-ups and numerous nods to Zelda, all perfectly judged, and the game is at its best when it echoes the slightly sinister "is this really for kids?" humour of Adventure Time series. As you bounce back and forth between a cast of cartoon favourites, you unravel obscure mysteries and receive oddball items such as Princess Bubblegum's pantyhose. Unlike the old Nintendo magazines, which were cluttered with walkthroughs, they finally took them out near the end, and thank God, because I never read them. Instead, we have a lot of feature articles like, what the hell is Link doing in Dynasty Warriors and why you should know. It seems like a joke. Nintendo is famously reluctant to let its characters appear on lunchboxes for fear of having them connected to Twix-related playground violence. So the idea that it might allow one of gaming's most iconic figures to star in a series is based around slaughtering tens of thousands of dead-eyed meat sachets was more than far-fetched. It was the stuff of fantasy. It's pretty much just a big preview of the up-and-coming Hyrule Warriors and what it is going to entail. It's an interesting read. Much of the Gundam series looks like a David Bowie music video. There are still mysteries to solve, like where Link got that scarf. And they also have a wee section. They break down the trailer of the game, and they have screenshots of all the Dynasty Warrior games throughout the years. Continue. Time capsule. Mario Kart games minus Mario Kart. The cream of the clones in an all-conquering racer. Classic moment. How to give meaning to a bottomless game and cure east-west aminosity in 10 seconds. Best of Wii U, 3DS, Wii DS. It's almost as though some kind soul has taken the trouble to play and write the best games just for you. Kind soul, you were paid for it. Yoshi's Island, the sequel to Super Mario World, arrived in the point in gaming history where next-gen graphical flash threatened to trump pure gameplay. Michael Gabber looks back at how the wrong game got at the wrong time outlived the cool kids by 20 years. As the old saying goes, orange sky at night, baby Mario takes flight. Is it weird this pastel style is prettier than the new 3DS game? It's very weird. Yoshi's Island. So this goes into depth about how the creation of the game, pretty much everything you need to know about it, the graphics, the gameplay, as well as a bit of history. The beautifully realised crayon textured follow-up to the all-conquering Super Mario World, powered by the Super FX chip and widely considered one of the best games ever made. How many games do they say that about? It is considered one of the best games ever made. How many games do we have to have before that number can be cut? Like, is it 100 games? Is it 1,000 games? Another time capsule for our great grandchildren to dent their cyber shovels upon. Imagine their delight when they uncover Alex Steele's top 10 Mario Kart games don't feature Mario Kart. Well, that's good, because that'll be too predictable. Street Racer. In 1994, a young Ubisoft decided to merge the fury cuffs of Super Mario Kart. It was a move so bitterly cynical that hell's mouth opened and Justin Bieber was spawned. But Ubisoft, in its youthful exuberance, forgot one crucial thing to make the game bad. While there was some seriously iffy stereotyping, Zuzulu? Really? I don't know what that means. On display, it was a spirited attempt at a scrappier, more physical Mario Kart, the highlight of which a Battle Royale event that took around 10 minutes to complete. Mickey's Speedway USA. Pluto's relationship with the rest of the Mickey gang is a bit odd, isn't it? While everyone else is allowed to wear clothes and own houses like proper people, the poor dog has to sit outside, naked, in a kennel. When he gets kidnapped by weasels, the rest of the squad's immediate response is not to call the police, but to hop on some go-karts and commence faffing. Even goading postcards show Pluto tied to a cactus can't interrupt the gang's jollies as they race around locations that really capture the Disney magic, such as Alaska and New Mexico. Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. Matthew and Joe both hate it, but I have been in this game for a while now. And let me tell you a little something about those two. They're a pair of punks. Transformed is a smooth, spellbinding speedrun through Sega's garnished graveyard of misplaced nostalgia. Terrific stuff, and may my paycheck of this piece bounce if I'm wrong. Hope you like noodles. This is actually a good article because most of these racers I have not actually heard of. It does make me want to try some of these other games. Classic moment, the Tetris Shuttle. It goes into depth about a very simple game. The best of Wii U. I agree, for all the games I've played on this list, they all deserve to be here. But I'm a bit surprised. I really enjoyed Splinter Cell Blacklist and Resident Evil Revelations. I would put them in the 90s. Super Mario 3D World, I would have put that into the 80s. I'm surprised Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate only got 79. The Wii version was fantastic. This is one of the few publications that acknowledge Zombie U is a masterpiece. I played Assassin's Creed 4 on the Xbox One. I believe the game's a little overhyped in general, but still a pretty great game. Need for Speed Most Wanted, I played the PS3 version, which looks fantastic, and this one's supposed to look better. Pikmin 3 was a fantastic game. The only problem with it is that it was too short. Can't believe they put Skylanders and Disney Infinity both on this. If you're into collecting toys, but it's just like a money grabber, really. Skylanders, enter the exciting world of bankruptcy of the pursuit of colourful fun action. If I was in charge of this magazine, I'd be giving that a very low score, those games, but obviously I'm not. The best of the 3DS. All patented an infallible scoring system changed partway through the 3DS era, so you may notice some higher score games have fallen out of the list into what we like to call the abyss. Don't worry, stop fretting, we still love them, just not as much as before, clearly. Yeah, because sometimes you play something and it's really great, and then you go back to it and it's like, oh, not quite as great as I remember, or vice versa. So I'll talk about the ones I've played. I haven't played an awful lot of 3DS games. Kid Icarus Uprising, fantastic game. A lot of people complain about the controls, having to use the stylus. It's not a major issue for me. I just feel it was a game that would have been better suited to a console rather than a handheld, because the levels are very long and you can't just stop them and save it. You'd have to play the whole level. The levels last like at least 20 to 30 minutes. The same with Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. You're playing at least 20 or 30 minutes before you find the next save point, but still a fantastic game. Mario Kart 7, I remember playing the online in this one quite a bit. I made a video a long time ago criticizing it, but that was more of an experimental video. I do like the game, but these Mario Karts all seem to blend together. I give them all 4 to 5s. Still pretty good. So they like Monster Hunter 3 on the handheld better for some reason. Pokemon X and Y, I could never get into that game because it was far too easy, and they literally just chuck Pokemon at you. You get 2 starters. Ridge Racer 3D. This is the first game I got for my 3DS. After 6 months they did a massive price cut. That's when I jumped on the 3DS, and it was a pretty great racing game. Fun fact, this is the game that ruined my eyesight because I had the 3D on full blast, and one day I was playing it and my eyes just suddenly went blurry. Ever since then my eyes haven't been the same. Thank you, Ridge Racer. Still a great game, just play it with the 3D off. I can't stomach the full 3D now. Star Fox 64 3D, pretty great game as well. The only thing is it's a little short. Super Mario 3D Land, a decent game. Again, I would have given it about 80%. Not something I really got into. Super Street Fighter 4, this was the first game I seen on the 3DS, and it was one of the first games I got on it. It's ported from the HD consoles. Aside from the backgrounds, nothing else really had to be scaled down. It's a very pretty game. And and plays very well too. Legends, Nintendo Wii. It's a pirate's life for Wii. Well, yeah, a lot of people did pirate the console. Top 5 Wii games. For once, I completely agree with that top 5 list. Second Wiki, Quest of Barbus' Treasure. A relic of a time when devs could gamble on pirate rabbit gangs and skulls and wigs. Pretty fantastic game that was completely ruined for me by the wonky motion controls, because this was released at the start of the Wii life cycle, so the game's difficult enough without the wonky controls. Legends, Nintendo DS. Riff Paradise is like a WarioWare game. You do like a bunch of very bizarre mini games and they're quite tough. Good control. One of the best DS games I've played. I think it should go higher than 82%. There's a few different types of mini games where you're trying to create the bond of love between two people. It's very clever the way it incorporates music into the mini games. The best of Nintendo 3DS and 2DS eShop. I played Mighty Switch Force, made by Way Forward, who are very good at making those cartoony games. It's a puzzle / platformer game. Some of the games I bought because of their reviews. Attack of the Friday Monsters, I didn't like it. They give it an 86%. It's a story game where you pretty much go to different parts of the map, which is like a small Japanese town, and you talk to someone, then you have to go to another part of the map and you talk to someone and things happen. It's just not my type of game. Speaking of what is not my type of game, Crimson Shroud. It says, like playing Dungeons and Dragons with real magic. I hated it more than Attack of the Friday Monsters. You choose what to do and it's just like a bunch of text. I may as well just be reading a choose your own adventure book. Pull blocks, very challenging puzzle game where you push and pull blocks and you have to get to the top to save kids. I know the Americans call it Pushmo. It sounds simple, but the levels can get quite creative. It had a level creator itself. I never got around to using the level creator. Maybe I should. Liberation Maiden was a fun game. It was just too short. It had 4 levels. I completed it within half an hour to an hour. It's just about this high school girl who is a president of Japan and she has to blow up a bunch of mechs. SteamWorld Dig was a pretty great game too. It's Metroidvania, so you pretty much dig under the ground for treasure. Zen Pinball 3D. The only thing missing from this pinball sim is the heavy stench of a biker waiting to have a go. That said, you get towering mechanical castles too, so maybe this is even better than the real thing. I know you could buy DLC levels. I only played with the 4 levels it gave me. You had to do like a certain view of the pinball table because of the small 3DS screen. It's a game you'll play for say 20 minutes and then do something else. I never played any of the Wii U eShop games. The final page, Professor Layton versus. This month's review proves that Layton can turn a hand to any game, so here are a few suggestions for where the professor could head next, and more importantly, what the insane Layton twist could be in each mashup. Super Mario Bros. A plumber whose girlfriend, a member of the regional monarchy, has been kidnapped, calls Layton in to track her down. A rather pitiful tale. The princess, realizing she could never marry beneath her station, moved away without saying goodbye. The Toads, feeling sorry for Mr. Mario, simply couldn't bring themselves to tell him that she had abandoned him, and sent him on a fool's errand between the castles, always saying that she'd be moved to the next. The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. The professor's called to help a boy who finds he has grown to adulthood overnight, and his homeland is now a blighted ruin. Of course, I discounted the time travel element immediately. I won't fall for that one again. The truth is that the boy had been responsible for years of Crocray vandalism. So the people of Hyrule drugged him, glued stilts to his legs, salted the earth, demolished the town, and moved away. Animal Crossing New Leaf. A resident petitions the fitted archaeologist to help her understand why she's been mysteriously appointed as town mayor. A Dark Tale. The mayor, a former resident, has committed a series of murders and went mad, losing her memory. To revenge the departed, the surviving villagers invited her back to the town, upon which she is encouraged to dig up and arrange the skeletons of her victims, and help plant the tree for which the town planned to have her hanged. Star Fox 64. Puzzled by reports of benign wildlife piloting dangerous spacecraft, Professor Layton boards a rocket to investigate. We need only look at the history for the solution here. The Russian space program has been using animals since the 1940s, but I hadn't realized that they had learned to pilot those ships for military gain. And the evil monkey head, the so-called Andros, well, the Russians' rival. NASA did send a primate to space after all. Resident Evil. A police task force officer in Raccoon City asks Professor Layton to investigate the source of their horrifying zombie outbreak. Mr. Redfield, those weren't zombies, those were just tired teenagers on their way back from a party. You're literally committed several horrible murders. I simply can't help you. I don't think even Phoenix could help you. Phoenix? Nope, there's no way I'm touching this one. Dang. Super Smash Bros. An autonomous letter arrives, imploring the professor to investigate a sinister underground fighting tournament. Perhaps my most disturbing mystery. It seems the shadowy Nintendo Corporation has decided it had too many mascots, inviting them to outlandish locations across the globe. It then forced them to fight to the death in order to ascertain who was worthiness to head up the company. Worst of all, it seems I am to be the tournament's final participant. Well, if only. So that is my retrospective of the Nintendo official magazine. This was a really solid issue. If I was to give it a grade, I would give it a S. Definitely better than the older issue I read, issue 13, which I would give an A, which was mostly a great issue, but it was just marred by a bit of Nintendo bias, and their previews are pretty trash. Obviously, this had to have previews, which were more exciting at the time, but they don't bum and blow about how great a game is before the game's out, unless they know for a fact that the game's got to be awesome. One thing I have to say about these magazines is they're written incredibly well. You'd think that a Nintendo magazine would be targeted towards children, but they use a lot of big words. They're quite clever the way they write things. Their humour is quite clever and quite tasteful as well. Humour is particularly difficult to get right, and I feel the Nintendo magazines are very good at getting that right. That's why I loved buying them. In this issue, a lot of my problems with the older Nintendo magazines have been addressed. They've put in more interviews. They've got rid of the walkthroughs and instead replaced them with features. It feels like two different magazines, which is great. I love the writers of the older issues and I love the writers in the newer issues too. The evolution of the magazines come a long way, and I believe they've built on the success over the years. They've added really entertaining features like the Me Plaza. Of course, the letters are always brilliant too. They have a debate piece about the eShop. What is really great about them, they go really in depth about topics like Super Smash Bros, which you wouldn't get in a YouTube video, because in a YouTube video you sacrifice some detail in order to make the video sound exciting, because speaking is a lot slower than reading. You absorb more words reading than what you do listening to someone speak, and of course speaking's a lot harder to do than writing. I believe that these magazines definitely had their charm, and I do miss the magazine and the website. I was quite a regular on the website when I wasn't reading the issues. I was always on that website right up until they cancelled it. It's a real shame that this era of Nintendo magazines is gone. I see there's an independent Nintendo magazine, but it's just not the same. It was quite good value for money as well. Buying a Nintendo magazine for £4 or £3 if you subscribe to it, it was a pretty good deal. You imagine how much this would cost now. It'd be a lot more expensive. Even in the previews, they cover some Japanese games as well. They have a few silly articles as well, like who's the best crime detective. But that's what gives the magazine its charm. I'm surprised how this magazine didn't catch on as much as like Sony and Microsoft. I believe they were better written than those two. Maybe it's because those other two companies have a lot more hardcore gamers, where Nintendo has more of a casual market who wouldn't buy the magazine as much. I know that it was a lot harder to find the Nintendo magazine, even the official one, and it's just a shame, because I'll probably never buy another magazine again, to be honest. Even though the magazines didn't do well, most if not all of the people who worked on the magazine went on to be really successful. Joe Scribbles went on to IGN. Matthew Castle works for Rock Paper Shotgun. Chris Scullin and Chandra Nair have their own websites. These companies must have seen the quality of the writing in the magazine and went, right, I want these people on my team. There's always the question of these magazines, why they rate things out of 100%. I see a lot of people online criticizing that approach, like IGN pretty much did that, and a lot of other publications did that as well. I remember when I was younger, and even now, I do enjoy it. Like, oh, this gets 67%, even though it's a bit silly. Does it really matter if it's like 67 or 68%? It's very nerdy. It's something I wanted to do on my YouTube channel, but it's very awkward to do when you're speaking on a video. I would really like to see the process of how they tallied percentages. That would interest me. I do see people who formerly worked for these publications criticize scores, like Chris Scullion. He doesn't use scores in tired old hack because people look at the scores and they don't read the review and they go, oh, why do you want to do this? For me, people say I'm weird, but I would read the reviews and then I would see the score at the end as well. I am guilty in the past when I seen their best of section at the end, go, oh, that got 90%, I'll pick that up. But that's because if I had the issue to read the review, of course I would have read it. All the issues I have with reviews of games I've played, I did read the review. It does help you out sometimes because they give Monopoly a 90 and it's like, I have Monopoly, I'm not going to want to buy that. If someone just looks at the score at the end and not read or watch the review, that's problems on them. I like putting a score at the end, saying this is what I think of the game. A review score is what the reviewer thinks about the game, but the actual review itself, the reviewer lists what they had problems with, what they liked, but then they say, if you like this type of game, like if you like cinematic games with not much gameplay, pick it up, but for the rest of us, it's better just to skip it, and gives it 67%. That tells me I like cinematic games, so I will give it a go. Hello guys, hope you're having a fantastic day. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and to subscribe for more videos.